So welcome to part 3 of Monday's makeup lecture. We ended the last movie talking about multicellular organisms and how we can split them into categories. One of those categories was producers. These are organisms that produce their own food. They don't have to eat anything else. Now they do that, they create their own food through the process of photosynthesis. For photosynthesis, you need three major ingredients. You need carbon dioxide, that's in the air around us. You need water, which you get from rain or say your own tap if they're your own plants at home. And then you also need solar energy or light energy. That's captured by the pigment chlorophyll. Now all of these pieces are put together in the chloroplast. The chloroplast then processes these and turns them into two things. One is oxygen. Oxygen is really seen as a waste product. Although it's wasteful to the plant, really beneficial for us. It also creates glucose, or C6H12O6. This is a sugar. Now this sugar isn't just, released by the plant. Instead, that's really kind of the food for the plant. That's what it uses to build itself. You can get a taller trunk, a wider trunk, more leaves, more branches, more roots, all of these different aspects of a plant due to photosynthesis. And here again you have at the bottom the chemical formula for photosynthesis. Our CO2 plus our H2O and light energy is going to yield that glucose, that C6H12O6, and oxygen. But the number of producers on Earth is, well, pretty small, or at least, what we interact with on a day-to-day. Most of the things that we think of are consumers. These are actual organisms or animals that we can't photosynthesize. We can't use chlorophyll and make our own energy. Instead, we get energy from eating other organisms. Now, we can organize consumers based on what they eat. One thing we have is herbivores, so you have this root herb that's referring to plant material like this tortoise. You also have carnivores such as wolves, so carn refers to meat, so they're only meat eaters. And then you have some organisms like most humans, as well as other organisms such as bears that eat both. Here we have bears that are eating berries. Berries are plants, are part of plants, but they'll also eat meat, such as this picture of a bear eating a fish. So these organisms are omnivores, and this just lets us know, okay, they're eating both types of materials. But here's the thing. Consumers, what they're essentially consuming is a food material, and usually it gets digested down into glucose. But the thing is that we can't use glucose. I mean, we can, but we have to actually process it before we can even use it. That's not really a viable form of energy for us. So let me do an analogy. Here I have a parking meter and I need $1 and I really need to pay this parking meter. Well, I can look around and oh, it's sunny out, but that solar energy, not going to help me out. It'd be really useful for a plant, but me as a human, as a consumer, can't use that sunlight at all. So this plant is going to take in this sunlight, it's going to churn it into glucose. Here I have it as a dollar bill. Please know plants do not make dollar bills, at least in this sense. But let's pretend that this dollar bill is glucose. And someone in the classroom was really awesome. Was like, hey, I have $1. You can pay off your parking meter. Well, it's really nice of you. I really appreciate it. But if you've ever used a parking meter, they don't take dollar bills. You can see in here, they only take change. So I still need $1. But this just isn't the right form. I need to convert this into something usable. So quarters. I need this in usable energy. This is the same thing as us as humans. We eat these plants, or we eat animals that eat plants. We get this glucose, but the thing is our muscles can't use glucose. Our muscles can't use glucose to go running. Our muscles can't, our lungs can't use glucose to help us breathe. Instead, what we need to do is convert that glucose into a usable form of energy. Well, what is that then? So here's a second process that you need to learn about. So we have photosynthesis. We're now going to learn about cellular respiration. So what we need to do, we as humans, we as consumers need to do is break down that glucose, that end product of photosynthesis, into ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Don't need to know that at all, just letting you know it does stand for something. ATP is what our muscles use. ATP is what our brain uses, what our toes use, what every cell in our body uses as an energy source. We just can't use glucose, but we can break down that glucose into ATP. We can break down that dollar bill into quarters. It's still energy, but just a more useful form of energy. So here's photosynthesis, just to recap. That's what photosynthesis looks like. Cellular respiration is pretty easy. You just flip it around. So here we start off with oxygen. We as humans need to breathe in oxygen. Our muscles need that oxygen. We also need to eat. So we're going to eat glucose or organisms containing glucose. What gets created is our byproduct or our waste product, carbon dioxide. We don't need carbon dioxide. That's what we're exhaling. We also get rid of water. That water we pee out. And then we also create ATP. We create this usable form of energy. Now, it's not just humans that are undergoing this process. All animals that consume things are also undergoing respiration. Any organism, actually, all organisms, all living organisms, whether you're like us and we're eating lettuce and tomatoes and salmon and, cows, or if you're a decomposer like a vulture, they're still eating things. It's dead things. They're still eating it, and they still have to break down and get that glucose churned into ATP. Now, super key note, the one that just popped up, plants. Plants also have to break down glucose into ATP. Some of that glucose gets churned into their stem and roots and leaves, but plants need energy too. No, plants aren't moving the way we move, but they also undergo processes that require ATP energy. They, just like us, can't use glucose. They have to break it down into ATP. So know that plants undergo cellular respiration as well. Now, the very last class of organisms, something that I had just mentioned, are decomposers or detritivores. You'll see both of these terms used, but I'll usually use decomposers. These organisms are a little different because what they do is they eat and break down dead organisms. You don't really consider them herbivores even if they eat dead plants, or carnivores because they eat dead meat. They just get their own class because they're eating dead things. And it's kind of gross and disgusting, but honestly though, it's actually really important. If we didn't have things that ate dead things, we would have dead things all over the place. Even things that you don't see something eating. For example, when bread decomposes or when a banana peel decomposes, no, we don't see an actual physical organism eating it, but we do see it breaking it down. That's actually bacteria. It's bacteria eating that banana peel. It's bacteria eating that bread. No, we don't see it, but that's actually what's happening. So those bacteria are eating this dead bread or this moldy bread or old bread. They're also undergoing cellular respiration. They're taking those glucose molecules that are in that bread and breaking them down into the same products that we break down. They let go of carbon dioxide, they create their ATP energy, and they also create water. So before we move on, let's do a review. If you have your Human Biology Condensed book, that's that workbook, go ahead and take it out and turn to page 1-19. That's where this worksheet or this exercise can be found. But if you don't have that, it's okay. I've written it here for you. So what you have on the left-hand side are key points. These are relating to either cell respiration or photosynthesis, or in some cases, even both. So right now, get ready to pause this video, go through each of these and mark off, is this cell respiration or is this photosynthesis? Even if you don't have the book, I recommend writing in your notebook this activity. Put a check mark next to things that are relating to cell respiration and a check mark relating to things that are photosynthesis. Once you've completed that, you can unpause this video and we'll go through the answers. So go ahead and pause and work on this now. Alright, so now that you've done this exercise and kind of reviewed the requirements for cell respiration and photosynthesis, let's just go through this. So requires CO2 to begin. That one, photosynthesis. Plants or producers need carbon dioxide to undergo photosynthesis. Next one, requires glucose to begin. This one, definitely cellular respiration. Remember, with cellular respiration, like us, we undergo this. We need to eat. We need to get glucose in order to create energy. Requires oxygen to begin. Think about humans. We need oxygen. Well, we don't photosynthesize. We respire. We undergo cellular respiration. Requires water to begin. Definitely photosynthesis. If you're getting these confused, think about plants. What do you need a plant, or what does a plant need in order to survive? Well, they need water. If you don't water your plant, it's going to die. Requires light energy to begin. Definitely plants. Plants need this sunlight. Humans, not so much. Produces glucose. This would be producers through the process of photosynthesis. Remember, they use this glucose to make their structures, to make more leaves and more roots. And then we come along and eat it and undergo cellular respiration. This process produces carbon dioxide. That would be cellular respiration. We exhale that carbon dioxide after we've processed that glucose. Produces oxygen. This is definitely photosynthesis. Remember, producers make all of the oxygen in the world. Half of it comes from phytoplankton, half of it comes from our land plants. Produces ATP. That would be cellular respiration. This process breaks down that glucose, that dollar bill, into more useful quarters, or ATP energy. Humans and other animals do this. That's cellular respiration. We cannot photosynthesize. You'll actually see advertisements on particularly juice bottles that say contain chlorophyll, give you energy. Not true. Doesn't matter how much chlorophyll or how much chloroplasts are in our bodies, we can't do anything with that. We cannot photosynthesize. Decomposers do this. Also cell respiration. They too are eating. They're eating they're eating dead organisms. Well, that still has glucose in it. They still need to break that down. Algae and other green plants do this. Well, they're producers, so they photosynthesize. They're going to take that they're going to take that carbon dioxide, that water, that solar energy, and turn it into useful products for both themselves and for us. However, they also undergo cellular respiration. Remember that last bullet point? Again, plants use that glucose to make their, body larger, but they need ATP energy too. They need ATP energy to open and close different vessels within their bodies. They need that too. So they also undergo cellular respiration. They'll break down that glucose they just created in order to make ATP. So if you got all of these right, awesome job. If you missed some, be sure to go back through your notes because you'll definitely see things like this on the test.